How's it going, Deep Dive Sports fans? It's David here, hosting another episode of Nothing But Net, joined here with Evan today. How's it
Hello,
going?
hello. I'm doing well, David. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Have a few topics today, not many, just a couple that I want to kind of go over with you. And the first one that I have for you is the March Madness tournament.
Mhm.
The first one will actually not the first one. Uh March Madness Selection Sunday will be actually this Sunday, March 16th, 2025. So, one, I'm excited because I like doing the bracket challenge whenever I can.
Of
But
course.
how excited are you for this year's tournament?
I am very excited. As some of the listeners may know, and you probably know, David, I'm more in tune with the NBA definitely compared to college basketball. Um,
Mhm.
but definitely when it gets around to March Madness time, you got to be tuned into March Madness in college basketball. It's one of the most fun, I think, postseasons of any sport, college or professional. Just the
Mhm.
fact that it's that one and done, pretty much anything can happen. We've
Mhm.
seen now a couple times 16 seed even upsetting a one seed with Virginia, UMBC a few years back, and then we had Purdue lose a couple years back with Zach Edey. So I'm very excited. I mean, I haven't been super locked into college basketball this year, but I am starting to see it as conference tournaments are coming around, starting to, watch games when I can here and there. Um, I'm interested for Selection Sunday, kind of for us, as Ohio State fans. It may be kind of, unfortunately, a little bit of a nerve-wracking Selection Sunday. Not sure if Ohio State's honestly going to make it in the tournament this year or not. They're really right on that bubble. So, crossing our fingers they can get in this year, but
Mhm.
hasn't been the best of seasons for them. Um, Also excited just from the aspect of kind of compared to last year, this year, if you're looking at it from an NBA draft side of things, we do have, some upcoming draft products prospects, I mean, that will be in.
Yeah.
I know I'm stumbling all over my words here, but our upcoming NBA draft prospects, we do have some top ones that are going to be in the tournament this year. Last year, a lot of guys were international players that were at the top. It wasn't the strongest draft class, but we do have a guy like Cooper Flagg, a guy who everyone projects to go first overall on Duke, one of the top contenders for the title. So it'll be interesting to see, how he kind of makes a run at things with Duke. We have guys like VJ Edgecombe at Baylor, Trey Johnson, Texas, um, Michigan State, Jace Richardson. We definitely have some guys, some top guys that are going to be high up in the draft, but also going to be trying to raise their draft stock even more through March Madness and through the tournament, which I think is always interesting to see, when guys go on runs. Can they
Mhm.
bump their draft stock up a little bit? Or is it
Yeah.
kind of going to be set where they're at?
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's exciting. It's always very fun, especially that first couple days, that Thursday, Friday, where it's just games going on all day long. Uh,
Mhm.
that's when all the upsets really tend to come in. That's honestly like one of the best days I can think of for watching sports, just those first couple of days of March Madness, because you really never know what's going to happen.
Oh
And
yeah.
like you mentioned, everybody fills out their brackets. And majority of the time, I know for me anyways, that first day or maybe the second day, your bracket's likely to get busted by a major upset. So very
Mhm.
excited to see what it is. Very excited to see, who the Cinderella teams are this year. If any teams can knock off the top contenders like Duke and Auburn this year. Interested to see also UConn, back-to-back champs, but really haven't had a great regular season. I think they're looking to be like a 7, 8, 9 seed somewhere in there. So,
Mhm.
Are they able to make a strong run to try to get to three? If I had to guess, I'd say they probably won't get that three-peat,
Uh,
but you never know. Dan Hurley, he always has his teams playing well at the end of the season. So I think there are a lot of things to be excited about with March Madness coming up. And yeah, it's like you said, I feel like it always comes flying once March hits and then it's
mm.
Selection Sunday. You got a couple days to get your brackets before the games start, and then it's off and running, and then it just flies by. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited.
Oh yeah. And don't worry, I struggle with my English too sometimes. You're not the only one.
You
I
know,
have to
you
talk
know.
for a living. Um, but yeah, it's definitely fun every single year. Maybe we should. I know that early on in Deep Dive Sports History, we did it one time through the ESPN tournament app where we kind of set up a group and invited like fans to join us
Oh yeah,
if
that would be
if
awesome.
they were if they could beat us at March Madness.
Yeah, I would
I
love to do
mean,
that.
and hey, maybe just do something fun, nothing special, nothing out of the ordinary, nothing but hey, got some bragging rights over Deep Dive Sports.
That's right. That's right. And like I said, my bracket always seems to get busted early every year. I try to do something different with it, and you
Mhm.
know, I've obviously never had a perfect bracket. I don't think anyone has ever had a perfect bracket, but
There's been a
I've
few times
never
where it's come
been.
close.
Yeah, I've never been one of those that have come close. I have to say
Yeah,
that.
same. Uh, but I do remember kind of reminiscing back to college days and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I remember, so the, I think it was like yeah, it was my sophomore year of college. And I remember I had just gotten like a new phone
Mm,
at the time, but I still had the old one that I had,
mm,
in which was set up for March Madness from the previous year. So I had my TV hooked up to the cable, had the both of my phones had downloaded the way like the ESPN like where you could watch
yep.
games through, and I think I had a game on my computer. So I had like five different games going on all at once.
Yeah. That's the way to do
And
it.
my roommate at the time, he just walks in and sees me doing this, and he's like, "The hell is going on?"
You gotta do. That's what you gotta do on that first day of the tournament. I think
Oh
it might
yeah,
have been that same year. David, we were I don't remember if you were in there or not, but we were in the fraternity chapter room watching, and it was when I believe it was that year. It was when Loyola Chicago made
yeah.
their Sweet 16 run, and they had a Sister Jean
Oh yeah,
in
yeah,
in the
yeah. It was
audience.
like my junior year of college.
Yeah, and I remember all of us watching that first game where they had a big upset, and I think it went right down to the wire, maybe a buzzer beater or a game-winning shot or something like that. And I
Mm.
remember we were all just going crazy. We were all big Sister Jean supporters during that run as well. So that's something that always comes along too with March Madness. I feel like there's always that there's those Cinderellas, but they always seem to have, that super fan that goes along with them, or just some
Hmm.
kind of very interesting story that always comes along during the tournament. So it's
Yeah.
not just the teams, it's not just, the players and the underdogs, but there's always that kind of story that brings the kind of pop culture into the mix as well, which I
Hmm.
think just makes it very unique and fun.
And kind of brings back special memories too.
For sure. For sure.
Like I know this is basketball talk, but I remember being in the chapter room for the 2016 World Series,
Yeah.
and we had a
Yeah.
huge group there just to watch like game 6 and 7.
Before my time, unfortunately, 1 year before my time, but yeah,
Hmm.
I heard the stories.
I remember one guy, I won't say his name, but I remember he was hitting the door and he bent his ring.
boy.
in
But,
excitement.
yeah, that's what sports can do to us, That's why we love it.
Mm-hmm.
It it is unpredictable. It gives us a ride of emotions, and I feel like March Madness is one of those biggest roller coasters.
Mm,
Honestly, whether you have a team that you're 100% supporting going in, or whether you find your team, throughout the team that you latch onto that makes that Cinderella run.
mm. You, oh. Anyways, kind of moving on to the next topic that I have is the Tyrese Haliburton converted uh, a 4-point play to send his Pacers to a victory over the Bucks. And
Yes, yes, he
so,
did.
one, that was amazing. That's amazing in itself because you don't see that often.
Hmm.
Two, it's kind of a side note here, but this victory caused the Pacers to be tied record-wise
Yep.
um, with the Bucks. And so, what are your thoughts on this play? Because, like I said, it was one of the more probable shots to make.
Yes, it was.
And two, do you think the Pacers have kind of a chance at making a deep run in the playoffs? Because as of right now, when I look this up, they sit sixth, if I remember
Hmm.
correctly, in the standings. So they don't have to worry about the play-in tournament. So just kind of curious on that.
Yeah, so I think first thing I would say as I'm discussing this, I would say if anyone is listening and they have not seen this play, definitely go check it out, as soon as you can. It's very unique, and when you watch the play, and I don't know if you agree with this, David, but when you watch the play, it
Mm,
literally looks like they're running a football play because they had four guys in the backcourt, almost looked like
mm,
literally lined up almost like wide receivers, and they kind of ran routes, kind of like rub routes against each other, trying to get open, basically just running full speed, uh, to where when they catch the ball, they were going to be catching it full speed and then pretty much putting up the shot from there. So it was a very unique play that the Pacers actually ran this one time before in the playoffs last year. I can't remember who it was against. I can't even remember if it was successful last year or not, but I do just remember this play being run last year. But this time they got it to their guy, Tyrese Haliburton, who really wasn't even having the best game on his own, but like you said, caught the shot at the right place, put up the three.
mm,
Giannis, unfortunately, goes to guard the shot, kind of goes underneath Tyrese, doesn't really give him landing space, which is kind of required, or else you're going to get called for a foul. So he does get called for the foul. Halliburton makes a 3-point shot, makes the free throw. The Bucks did have kind of a chance to uh, basically make a full court, not a full court shot, but they had to make a pass and run down the entire court. Giannis took a three, uh, did not come up with it at the end. So a very good game, and I would definitely recommend to check out that play. It was very unique. Um,
Now,
yeah, it was a lot of fun.
quick
I think,
question before
yeah.
you continue on to the rest of your things.
Hmm.
Is this like Saquon reverse hurdle level?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. Well, it's so different. It's tough to say. I
Yeah.
don't think so. I would say like not quite that level because I feel like the Saquon, that's just kind of like something at least I had never seen before with the reverse
Yeah.
hurdle. And it was just a huge feat of like athleticism.
Hmm.
This was kind of almost more like, to me, it was, can't really relate it to another football play, but to me, it was more the genius of kind of drawing it up, like the coaching kind of drawing up the X's and O's. A lot of
Hmm.
times I feel like when you see uh NBA teams towards the end of games, normally it's just kind of like, yeah, just get the ball to the star and just kind of get out of the way. Which they
Hmm.
did get the ball to their star, but they did it in a very creative way of, really again running this football-esque play to get him open, get him into the right spot to be able to make the shot. Um, so I think that's very fun. Like you said, this did tie. The Pacers up with the Bucks. They're actually in pretty much a three-way tie right now, with the Bucks, Pacers, and Pistons. All 4 through 6 are all essentially tied right now. Although the Pistons have not played as many games, so that's why they're technically in six right now. But they're all 18 and a half games back of the Cavs. So it's at 4 through 6. That's really close. I think this is also good because the Bucks and Pacers have really honestly turned into one of the bigger rivalries in the NBA in the past couple of years.
Hmm.
Um, Last season they played ended up playing 5 times because they're in the same division, as well as they played in the in-season tournament. Last year, one of those in-season tournament games last year was the game, if anyone remembers, where uh, Giannis scored 60 points, but the Pacers took the game ball, and then Giannis went and ran into the in the back hallway trying to take the game ball back, and there was like kind of a skirmish after the game because he wanted the game ball. Didn't want to give him the game ball. And then of course they played in the playoffs last year as well. Pacers got the better of them. Without a healthy Giannis in that series. I know you asked kind of if I think the Pacers have a chance to make a deep run in the playoffs. I think it is going to be hard for them. I think it's going to be tough for them this year. Last year, they did make a great run to the Eastern Conference Finals to be able to play the Celtics. But within that run, you know, again, they faced a Bucks team that did not have a healthy Giannis for that series. He missed several games in that series. And then likewise with the Knicks, they got a series against the Knicks where their team was not healthy. They were kind of running on fumes, running on their last few guys. They did not have a full lineup out there. And so yes, they did make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. I do think it's gonna be really tough for them this year. I kind of feel like some other teams have gotten better in comparison to the Pacers, where I think the Pacers, if I kind of look at them last year and this year, I feel like they're on a similar tier. Whereas, like, I feel like obviously the Cavaliers, we'll talk about them later. I feel like they got a lot better. The Knicks, I do feel like got better in terms of their depth and just having more pieces with Karl Anthony Towns. The Bucks, I feel like they have one more year now of Dame and Giannis together. If Giannis can stay healthy, obviously that'll be more, very important for them in the postseason. And then, they still have an opportunity that, depending on how the season rides out, they could be down in six, and that would put them in a tough matchup with likely the Knicks in the first round, or they'd be in likely that 4 or 5 with either the Bucks or the Pistons. So, I mean, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that they could win a first round series. I think I would probably, if I had to pick, I'd probably pick the Bucks over them right now. Um, they'd be pretty even with the Pistons, in my opinion. But once they would get past that first round, unfortunately, I don't really see them going as deep as they did last year. Uh, I don't really see them getting past the second round. I think that's like their absolute ceiling, their absolute max,
All right.
which stinks to say for them, but I
That's
feel like,
100% fair.
yeah, yeah. Like I said, I just feel like some of the other teams have gotten better. Um, I think they're still kind of finding their footing. Tyrese Haliburton really did not have a great start to the season this year. He's kind of getting into form now, which obviously is the right time, but uh yeah, I just don't think they have as much depth and as much, honestly, star power as some of these other teams that are going to be competing with them in the Eastern Conference.
Hmm. And that's 100% fair, and that's kind of what I expected as an answer, I guess you
Hmm.
could put it,
Yeah.
is sometimes a team that goes to the Eastern Conference Finals may not make it past the first round.
Yeah.
And I just kind of wanted to see what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah.
And hmm?
I was just going to say, going off of that, I think a lot of people compare this team to the Hawks of 2021, right? They made it to the
Hmm.
Eastern Conference Finals and really have not had a whole lot of success since then. Um, I think the Pacers are in a little bit better position moving forward than the Hawks were at that time, but I think it all depends on matchups. I think the Pacers got had some luck last year, right, with injuries in terms of some of their opposing teams that they went up against. And with that being said, you never know what's going to happen, right? They could end up having similar luck again this year and, you know, kind of having a similar route. But if I had to just look at where things are right now, assuming knock on wood, everyone stays healthy, that is healthy now, I wouldn't really have them beating the Bucks if they played them, and I definitely wouldn't have them going past the second round.
Okay. Um, and that's 100% fair. And speaking of kind of the playoffs, and we're tying this into a little bit of the next topic that I have here, and the last one that I really have.
Hmm.
And that's even though they were out Ty Jerome, DeAndre Hunter, and Donovan Mitchell, the Cleveland Cavaliers for the second time this year are now on a 15 game winning streak. They had earned it last night against the Nets, or
Hmm.
was it last night? Can't remember.
Yeah, that's night. Yeah, yeah, that's
Okay.
what we're calling it.
Uh, couldn't remember.
I
Uh,
know. They start to blend together sometimes.
yeah. Um, First, what do you think of this achievement, which I think is phenomenal to begin with?
Hmm.
Second, what are your thoughts on their playoff chances, especially since they are now the number one spot. They clinched it last week, actually, against the Miami Heat, which I was at that game. I
Hmm.
didn't even know that they were even up for clinch at that time. And I didn't find out until after they had won the game,
Hmm.
which was an exciting game,
Yeah.
and I had amazing seats. But anyways, and the last part of this is as it sits right now, at least at the time of when I researched everything, they are the only ones to have clinched for at the moment.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, kind of starting with that first part, talking about their second 15 game win streak of the season. I think it's awesome. I mean, as a Cavs fan, of course, we're gonna think it's fun, we're gonna think it's great, but even
Mhm.
objectively, I think it's very impressive. There's only been the Cavs are only the sixth team to ever have at least two separate 15 game win streaks in one season. They are the first since the 2006-2007 Suns. So, almost first in about 20 years, 18, 19 years. Um, some of the other teams that have done that, um, again, those 2006, 2007 Suns, fortunately, they did not win a championship as the Spurs won that year. But we did have the 99 2000 Shaq and Kobe Lakers. They this was their first year of their three-peat, so they won a championship in the season that they did it. We also had the Utah Jazz from my page just went away, but it was one of 96, 97 Utah Jazz. If you guys know your NBA history, they also did not win a championship that year. Unfortunately, they ran into Michael Jordan. But then on the other side of things, we have the 70-71 Milwaukee Bucks who did win a championship. And then we also have all the way back to the 46-47 Washington Capitals, the first team to do that. And they did not win a championship. So, um, I think it's a great regular season achievement. And I think a lot of times people want to put everything in, when we're looking back in history, did you win a championship or bust? I try
Yeah.
to not think that black and white about it,
Mhm.
especially with the Cavs, a team that I'm a fan of, right? I try, you want to, it's hard not to with the way people talk about things, but you want to enjoy the ride and enjoy the fun seasons. This has been,
Mhm.
I think, one of, if not, I would say probably definitely the most fun season I feel like I've had as a Cavs fan. Um, just because this is a historic season for them, and they didn't have huge, huge expectations coming into the season. I mean, we expected to be in the playoffs. We expected to be, kind of in that a lot of people thought second, third tier of the Eastern Conference, but it wasn't like a championship or bust coming into the year. Um, but they've definitely overachieved. So that's been a lot of fun. They've had these 15 game win streaks. One of them was the first 15 games of the year, started off 15-0, which,
Yep.
vibes can't really get much better than that, right? When you start off 15-0. So that's been a lot of fun. And then just the guys that are on this team, right? You
Yeah.
know, obviously Cavs, most of their success in their history have come with one guy. Most of their success has come with LeBron James on the team, right? And while I love LeBron, I'm a huge fan of LeBron. Um, obviously I think he's the greatest, obviously Cavalier in history, one of the greatest basketball players in history. To have this team being able to kind of have these historic numbers, these historic records without LeBron,
Yeah.
and really kind of this really being the team that they rebuilt after LeBron left, and they were really able to rebuild it pretty successfully in about 6 years, five,
Yeah.
6 years, depending on when you want to, count things.
Yeah,
I would
because it
say
was
that,
the 2019, 2020 was the first full year, let me put it that way,
yeah,
without LeBron.
right. And
Spence.
so they built things up pretty quickly, and it's kind of been, a mixture of drafted guys like Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, drafted those guys. They've made some good acquisitions, right? Donovan Mitchell, Jared Allen, even guys now this season,
Even
DeAndre Hunter, Ty
heck,
Jerome.
I'd even throw in Laurie Markkinen because without signing him, we wouldn't
Yeah,
have Donovan
right.
Mitchell. So,
Right. He was a key piece to getting Donovan Mitchell in the first place.
hmm
So I do give a lot of credit to Kobe Altman and the front office staff for making this happen. I think a big part of this season has also been Kenny Atkinson taking over at head coach. I think he's unlocked a lot, especially offensively for these
hmm
Cavs. Um, so it's been a lot of fun. So first, that's kind of what I think about the achievement in and of itself. Another thing I will just say, something that I feel like has been unique about this season, and especially looking back at these last few games, the Cavs have been able to win even when they haven't really played that well, right?
mm
I feel like in seasons past before this one, if the Cavs didn't have a great game, they probably weren't going to win. Right now, they're such a good, deep, solid team that they can have a down game like the one last night against Brooklyn, or like the game, last Friday against the Hornets, where they're not playing well. They don't have nobody's really going out there and lighting it up. They're not shooting well, but they still are finding ways to win, which I think that's a sign of a good team, right? Being able to
mm
pull out those wins even when things aren't going right on your side of things. So I think that's something that's really impressed me about this team. And I'll just kind of move into my thoughts on their playoff chances. I really do think they have a chance. I think they have a solid chance to win the championship. I really do. I mean, I think obviously kind of the way things have been built up right now, their biggest test is at least to start out with in the Eastern Conference is going to be the Boston Celtics. Now they've done
mm
a good job, like you said, of pretty much locking up that number one spot to where they're going to have home court advantage for all of the Eastern Conference playoffs, which is a huge benefit, especially, we've been to some Cavs games. It can get pretty loud in there. People can get pretty
hmm
excited. I haven't been to a playoff game, so I can't tell you what that atmosphere is like, but I'd have to imagine, it's times 10, like some of
Oh
the
yeah.
things that we have seen in the regular season. Um,
And I
and
do
that
want to go to a game if possible.
I know I would love to too. I'm hoping maybe we can make it out there this postseason, if possible. But what that also does is it makes it so that they don't have to play the Celtics until the Eastern Conference Finals. And,
hmm
I think that gives them some time to, as of right now, they'd be playing, it kind of depends because it's the play-in, but they'd be playing someone like the Hawks, Magic, Heat, or Bulls. I don't think, we had a tough series against the Magic last year. They're not really the same team they were. They've been really struggling. All of those teams really have not had great seasons. So I don't think the Cavaliers have to worry about the first round. Um, could get tougher in the second
Knock
round. I
on
think.
wood.
Yeah, I know. We will. We will knock on wood for that for sure. definitely could get tougher in the second round. I think especially if they play the Bucks. Anytime you have a guy who's, you know, top three, four player in the world in a Giannis, you never know, right? You never know what could happen. But the Cavs just recently beat the Bucks. They've been very successful against the Bucks this season. Um, that was another game where they didn't even really play their best against the Bucks and were still able to pull it out recently on this 15 game win streak. And then I think it'll come down to the Celtics. And I think what we've seen from the Cavs, even though, some people will say, oh, it's just regular season. I think what we've seen this regular season is that the Cavs are not afraid of the Celtics, right? They were down 22-5 the last game they played, week and a half for back or so. And they fought back and ended up fighting all the way back and won that game against the Celtics. They had another game. They split the series 2-2 in the regular season with the Celtics, and the Cavs lost. At least one of those losses, I know they were missing Dean Wade, Okoro, some of their big pieces. So I think we've seen that they can compete with the Celtics. Um, and people may say, okay, they haven't got it done yet in the playoffs, but I mean that's the first time for everything, right? The Celtics hadn't
Mm,
their group had not gotten it done in the playoffs until last year, right? Then they finally got over the hump with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And I think what also makes me so positive about this Cavalier team is they're still very young. Obviously, I'd love for them to go out and win a championship this year, but they're still so young that they have a runway, right, of 3, 4, 5 years that this team is still going to be together. They have guys locked up under contracts. And so they have a runway where, even if they can't get it done this season, they still have a shot to get a
mhm.
championship, sometime I think in the next 5 years. I think they have a very solid shot to be able to make it happen. And again, there's really only been, I think, one, maybe two periods in the Cavs history where they can say that they really have a solid shot and are one of the top contenders for the championship. Obviously
Mhm.
those years with LeBron against the
And that,
Warriors, some of those first stints with LeBron, maybe, like 2007 where they did make the finals, but they got swept. And then maybe people had some chances. I wasn't watching at this time during some of those 90s years with Mark Price,
yeah.
but Jordan was always in the way, right?
Yeah, I was gonna
Um,
say you take Jordan out of the picture, you got the 90s. It's
yeah,
like what a time to be. It's like I wish I was kind of alive for yeah, I was born in the 90s,
yeah,
but I wasn't old enough to really understand what was going on.
right.
It's like some of those Cleveland teams were so good.
They were. They were.
And it's
I
like
mean,
like you say 90s Cleveland teams. The first thing that most people are going to bring up are the 90s Indians.
yeah, right.
The either the 90s Indians or the early 90s Cleveland Browns.
Hmm.
And those were two of the best teams that those teams that organizations have ever had.
Yeah.
So,
But the Cavs, like you said, the Cavs had some teams in there too. Like
yeah,
they had they had the team with Mark Price,
Brad Doherty.
with Brad Doherty. I think they had three All-Stars. I think during one of those 90s years they had three All-Stars just like they have
Mm.
this. So
And I
they had some
think
solid teams in there.
Big Z was still in there too,
Yeah, Big
to
Z
some
came
degree.
around
But he was
early
like late 90s
early in his
though.
career, yeah. But yeah, I think it's just exciting because I think
Mm.
it's just a time where we feel like we have a legitimate shot this year, but it's not also like, 2018, where it's like, if we don't get it done this year, it's it. No, we know we have more opportunities. We know
Mm.
we have next year, year after, year after. And, while we don't want to always be saying there's always next year, I think it is exciting from a fan perspective to be able to know, yes, we can get it done this year, and we have the opportunity to walk home with the championship this year. But even if not, we have several opportunities in these next handful of years to be able to get it
Mm.
done. So,
And I
um,
think that as Cleveland fans, they're kind of just really tired of being, how do I put this? They're just really sick and tired of being at the short end of the stick.
Hmm.
Better, lack of a better way of putting it. Because it's like you've had, like I said, 90s Cavs had Michael Jordan.
Hmm.
Michael Jordan was always in the way.
Yep.
The 90s Indians always literally from 90 like 94 to maybe 2001, like
Hmm.
2000 2001, they had chances of actually winning the World Series.
Yep.
And then 2016 they took it to 7 games.
Hmm.
And it's like I think Cavs fans, it's like, yes, we can say there's always next year, stuff like that. But Cavs fans are just sick and tired, and let's be honest, they just want to see another championship. They don't care if it's the Browns, Cavs, or Guardians.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, even since LeBron has left, the Cavs, again, we talked about, I think, have had a very successful and quick turnaround. But, there was people in the media or just sports fans on social media from the moment Donovan Mitchell got here, right? They're saying he doesn't want to be in Cleveland. He doesn't want
Mm,
to stick around. He's not going to sign an extension. He wants to go to the Knicks. He wants to go to Brooklyn. I mean, I mean, I guess if you really think back to the start of this very fun season for the Cavs, it was that Donovan Mitchell extension, right? It was him saying, I believe in this team. I believe in the city of Cleveland. I want to be here. I want to stick it out.
hmm
That leads to the season we're having now, right? His belief in the team, his individual numbers have not been as strong this year because he's been letting guys like Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, even again, Ty Jerome, DeAndre Hunter, he's been letting those players step up, which is what we're going to need when it comes to the playoffs. So
mm,
it's just such a well-rounded team. It's a fun team. We have our star in Donovan Mitchell who, if needed, can go off and have a crazy performance. But we also have a very solid, well-rounded team where we don't have to completely rely on just one guy to be able to get it
mm,
done. We don't have to rely like last year just on Donovan Mitchell. We don't have to rely on, some of those years with the Cavs on just LeBron. There's a solid team where, Ty Jerome has gone out there and literally won us some games this year.
mm,
And that's off the bench. DeAndre Hunter, I believe the Cavs have not lost since they traded for DeAndre Hunter, which is kind of a crazy statistic to have.
mm,
Um, like this team is so well rounded. You can tell that they enjoy each other's company, which from a fan side of things just makes them, in my opinion, a very fun team to watch because they're all giving it their all.
mm,
Nobody's kind of has their ego in the way of things. They're just all working their hardest to be able to do what's best for the team. And as fans, I think we just have to love and appreciate that. Obviously, we want to see them go for the championship, but even if they don't make it this season, I think we should also remember, looking back, we get 10 years down the road, we should still remember how fun of a season this was and, you know, the
mm,
remarkable things that this team did accomplish. Because, like we said, the two 15-game win streaks, they have a 12-game win streak outside of that. Um, I saw something like a stat where pretty sure if you have just the Cavs win on their 15-game win streaks and their one 12-game win streak, they would have 42 wins, which is, already a solid amount of wins, and that's just coming from their win streaks, right?
mm,
So it's been a special season, I think, for the Cavs, and obviously we all want to see it end raising a championship trophy with the players getting a ring with a championship celebration in Cleveland. And I hope that's the case too. We'll knock on wood, of course. But even if that doesn't happen, I think we should be able to appreciate, how fun and successful of a season this was, no matter what does happen in the postseason for the Cavs.
mm. Definitely. 100%. And we'll just have to kind of wait and see how things kind of play out. Obviously, knock on wood. Want to see the Cavs win a championship again. Um, Obviously, I want to see my fan favorite Guardians win a championship. Because as of right now, they are the longest like droughted team
Mm.
without a championship.
Yeah,
Because mind you,
yeah,
it was 1948 since the last time they had won.
yeah. They've been
Um,
close. They've been close.
mm, and anyways, any kind of final thoughts you got?
No, I don't think so. I would just say, this is like we mentioned throughout. I think this is a very fun and exciting time in the world
Hmm.
of basketball as a whole, right? We have March Madness coming up in college on both the men's and women's side. We didn't touch much on the women's side of the bracket, but that's always just as much fun, if not more fun sometimes than the men's tournament as well.
Hmm.
You got star players on the women's side of thing like Juju Watkins. Um, so be on the lookout for that. Enjoy that. Make your brackets for both the men's and women's side. You know, knock on wood, somebody out there gets a perfect bracket this year. And on
Hmm.
the NBA side of things, it's not quite the playoffs yet. I'm itching to get there, but at the same time, we have a lot of fun standings races. We talked about kind of that race for that 4, 5, 6 in the Eastern Conference. The Western Conference is crazy right now with the Nuggets, Lakers, Grizzlies, Rockets. They're all separated by 2 games, and then you have the Warriors, Timberwolves, Clippers, Kings. They're all separated by about 3 games. So it's the games are really starting to matter here in the NBA for sure.
Hmm.
Um, as things come down the wire, so we're gonna see a fun end to the regular season. Um, and we're going to see some great postseasons from men and women's college basketball as well as the NBA. So it's a great time to be a basketball fan. And
Hmm.
even if you're not the biggest basketball fan in the world, I think there's no better time than right now to tune in and watch and enjoy um, you know, the quality fun basketball that's being played, in all
Hmm.
aspects.
And we'll have to catch maybe even a WNBA game too at some point.
Something we didn't touch on it's been reported. I don't think it's been confirmed by the league, but it has been reported pretty extensively that Cleveland's going to be getting a WNBA team back in
Yeah,
in one of the expansions. So I am super excited for that. It sounds like it's going to be the
2028.
yeah, it sounds like it's going to be the Cleveland Rockers coming back, which were
Hmm.
an original WNBA team. Um, I was a little young really to be able to see them,
Yeah,
but when they make their return, I'm definitely going to be out there cheering them on as well. Um,
and maybe we'll see Caitlin Clark while we're at it.
yeah, might have, probably see a Fever come to town, or who knows, maybe Caitlin Clark just wants to come to Cleveland and forces a trade and says, you know what, I want to be a Cleveland Rocker, and then you never know, what's coming. But I am very excited for that as
Yep.
well. And then, like you said, WNBA pretty much once NBA, right when NBA pretty much ends their season, then WNBA starts. And they have a shorter, pretty quick season. It's like boom, 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 40 games, playoffs.
Hmm.
And, it's I love the cycle of basketball that we have where we do have the NBA and WNBA kind of an alternating seasons because, it's basically NBA wraps up, WNBA starts, WNBA ends in October, NBA starts right up. So,
Hmm.
um, you know, if you're out there looking for basketball, there's plenty to be found. So,
Yes, sir. Anyways, well, thank you, Evan, for coming on again.
thank
Um,
you.
Thank you for the Deep Dive Sports listeners for tuning in, or if you're seeing this on YouTube, uh, thank you for watching. And until next time.